Big news this week for trucking and AB5 in California. Hey, Arctic friends and family, if you have been paying attention to the news this week, it is the beginning of May 2021, and AB5 is back in the headlines. If you don't know what AB5 is, it is a law that was passed in California and was supposed to go into effect January 1, I believe, of 2020. And it was a classification rule, right? It gave a three-pronged test to classify whether someone was truly an independent contractor or whether somebody was actually an employee and a business was treating them as an independent contractor. So there's all sorts of opinions. The California Trucking Association is fighting against AB5 because what it does, intentionally or unintentionally, I don't know, it basically makes it impossible to be an owner-operator signed on to a company in the state of California. You could be a small business and have your own authority and run your own freight that you find through a broker or through customers, although there is some question there about the relationship between the broker and the single truck small business. But you couldn't be an independent contractor signed on to a company in the state of California. Why? Because they give you the ABC test, 3 questions, and the B question, the B prong, is impossible for any truck driver to, or trucking company, to pass. You cannot satisfy the B requirement. It says that the independent contractor must not do the same thing that the business does. So here's an example. If you run a Starbucks location, you can bring in an independent contractor who is a plumber to do plumbing work in your business because they do plumbing and you serve coffee and food. But you cannot bring in a independent contractor barista to make coffee in your coffee shop and call them an independent contractor. Now, whether we agree with that definition or we don't agree with that definition, that's not the point of the video. The point is simply to say the B prong says you can't do that. And that person would become your employee. So in late 2019, ahead of this thing going into law at the beginning of 2020, there was a lot of things that happened. A lot of owner-operators moved out of California. Other owner-operators had to change the way that they were doing things, change companies. Companies dropped California domiciled owner-operators for fear that this law was going to turn around and then make them be employees. So there's a lot of background going on in why would this be coming about? Why is AB5 happening? What does AB5 in California mean for the rest of the country? But it has all been a battle so far in the courts because this injunction came down in late 2019 that said this thing can't go into law yet because it might conflict with a federal law. So the California Trucking Association was arguing it was preempted by a federal law and the state law couldn't interfere with the federal law. Their argument to me has always sounded kind of weak, and apparently this week 2 out of 3 judges in a 3-judge panel in the federal courts in California agreed that it wasn't a sufficient argument for the injunction to hold. But I just want to give you what I think is driving this. I don't know this. We're just running a business here in the state of Ohio, but I don't think it's a secret that the government wants tax dollars. They want their tax dollars, and they want to eliminate any possible method through which taxes might be underpaid or earnings might be underreported. I have never worked as an independent contractor, and yet I have a suspicion that it is a possibility that independent contractors don't always report every dollar that they earn, or they are incredibly liberal with the deductions that they claim, thereby reducing their taxable income and causing the government or the states to receive fewer tax dollars than what the state and federal government believes that they should. Now, is it easier to go after every single independent contractor in the nation by auditing their tax returns? There's no way. There's 70,000 independent contractor owner-operators in the state of California that this law is displacing. 70,000 just in California. Think of all of the U.S. combined, and that's just truck drivers. You have independent contractors who work in all sorts of arenas of labor. Plumbers, electricians, framers, carpenters, you name it. The list goes on, and freelance writers, Uber drivers, it goes on and on and on and on. Barbers. The list is unending. And so I think that states and the federal government know they can't audit all those tax returns. They don't have any way of really putting the time and effort into making sure that income is reported properly, expenses aren't overly deducted out of someone's federal filings or state filings annually. And so the easy thing to do is to just eliminate independent contractors. Because if you eliminate independent contractors, then they must be employees of somebody, and that somebody is much easier to hold accountable. One business who has 50 employees or 100 employees or 200 employees is required to then withhold taxes, to report income, to make sure that that all happens in the proper fashion. I don't know how all this is going to shake out over the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. This could be dead in the water. I don't know. I don't know what the Supreme Court would say. I think it is incredibly anti-American to tell someone that they cannot own their own truck and run a small business for themselves. The problem is the common way that has happened in trucking is you sign on to an existing carrier as an owner-operator, you contract on, and you haul the freight that they haul. But under the AB5, ABC test, you can't do that. Because if a carrier brings you on and they ship freight and you're hauling freight, you're not passing the B-prong, and then that business is going to receive a misclassification notice that says that person was actually an employee. They weren't an independent contractor. Now, just from a recruiting standpoint, this is also very challenging for us because we have employees. And for those employees, we provide health insurance, we provide paid vacation, we provide a 401k match. There's all sorts of expenses that we have that another carrier who only employs 1099 independent contractors doesn't have. Now, if they're true independent contractors, fantastic, well done. But some carriers, they kind of skirt the middle ground because they want to save money for themselves. They don't want to pay unemployment taxes. They don't want to pay workers' comp. They don't want to pay for health insurance. They don't want to pay a lot of these benefits and tax expenses that we have because we have employees. And so it makes it a challenge where they may offer a particular rate of pay. Let's say that rate of pay is a particular number of cents higher than what we can offer, but they can only offer that because they're not really covering and treating that person as an employee when they really are. So this whole situation is it's super in-depth. There are legitimate independent contractors who are out there just trying to run a small business. And that person should be able to continue to do that. This is the United States of America, where opportunity is there if you want to step out and take a risk and believe in yourself and bet on your grit, your hard work, your determination, your intelligence in understanding how to run a business. You should be able to do that. And California or the federal government shouldn't be able to come in and tell you that you can't. But at the same time, there are a lot of drivers over the years who have not been treated properly. They haven't been cared for correctly because they have been misclassified. They've been called independent contractors when they were really employees. And how do we sort through it? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't know where this is going to end up. But I can tell you what, it is a legal quagmire. It is a mess. It is going to cost lots and lots of money. The people are going to fight this in court over and over and over again. But if AB5 holds up in California, the rest of the country will not be long in following suit. That tends to be what happens. California kind of is a trendsetter. They're out there. They kind of put things into practice first. And it is a way for the rest of the nation to see what might be coming down the path. So AB5 is back in the news. The injunction from it becoming a law, specifically related to motor carriers, has been found to be insufficient. The argument is insufficient, and that injunction could be lifted even before the end of May 2021. How's it all going to shake out? I don't know. But if you are an owner-operator or an independent contractor, it's something that you should be paying attention to. I'm not saying to panic, but it is something that you should be paying attention to so that you aren't caught off guard in the future as our politician friends continue to pursue every possible avenue to tax the American people and to generate revenue for the things that they believe money should be spent on. So, kind of my take, some of the behind the scenes influences and what might be motivating this AB5 legislation out there in California. And there's other states, I believe, that are already following suit, but California, of course, is the big hot button, the one that everybody's watching because it came about first. So it's the first one that's going to be battled in court. We will see where it all lands. Who knows? Could go quiet again for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, depending upon if the Supreme Court hears this case. But we'll be very interested to see how it all shakes out.